Hello, my name is Seth Long. What would it be like in agriculture on small scale farming if we can, develop websites and e-markets and things like that where we can own what we make, ship that product out there, get premium prices for it, and bring that money home and put it to work in our own communities.
For this episode of the podcast, we were lucky enough to sit down with Seth Long, the owner of SouthDown Farm in Ermine, Kentucky. SouthDown Farm actually produces its own maple syrup from the maple trees that are located on the property, which is pretty cool considering a lot of maple syrup comes from states in the Northeast like Vermont or Maine or something like that. So it's cool that they're doing this operation right here in Kentucky. We talked to him about the innovations that he's made in maple syrup harvesting, where they're headed in the future, and the role that maple syrup production can play in this Appalachian economy. So sit tight and enjoy the conversation. Hello and welcome back to the Hollercast, the show produced by the Holler Creative in Corbin, Kentucky, whose mission is to bring hope and opportunity to the Appalachian region. Today in the studio we have Mr. Seth Long of SouthDown Farms with us. Seth, how are you doing?
Hey, I'm doing good, James. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you so much for taking the time to be here. Came all the way here from Letcher County?
Yeah, Whitesburg.
Whitesburg, is that right?
Whitesburg, Kentucky.
Whitesburg, Kentucky.
On the Virginia line.
So, Seth, even though you've already said your opinion about this question, our icebreaker question that we ask everyone is, what is your go-to gas station snack and drink?
Yeah, so it really doesn't apply for me, I guess. I kind of was joking around. I didn't like the question. But when I go to the gas station, I buy gas. So I try not to buy too many other things at the convenience station. So
that's for the best.
I'm sorry about that.
No, I guess it's kind of opposed to farming.
Yeah, that's right.
Nothing organic or healthy, really. And
I'll take a bunch of carrots with me and munch on them.
That's a way.
Yeah.
What's your go-to farmer's market snack and drink?
Oh, boy. Well, you can't beat the fresh vegetables and things. I mean, we eat stuff raw and fresh, and it's all good. I like the creativity that you find at the farmer's market, the different niche. People are good at different things and picking things up from other vendors that they make, whether it's a baked goods or whatever. So I really like the farmer's market scene.
Yeah, it's much better than the gas station scene.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so we'll get into what SouthDown Farm does, what you guys produce a little bit later.
Okay.
But you guys are originally from Pennsylvania.
That's right.
Is that correct? You and your wife?
Yes.
So how did you end up here in Kentucky?
Yeah, so my wife and I came in the summer of 1991, and we came to work with homes as volunteers for essentially a summer, and we never left. We're still here almost 30 years later, raised a family and made the mountains of Kentucky our home.
Cool. Why the name SouthDown?
Yeah, that's a good question. A lot of people ask that. One, I think it's just a cool name. It's unusual and it's different, and it makes people wonder why the name. So if you look at an old topo map of where we're at, there's a spot on the map there called SouthDown. Okay. And that's exactly where we are. There used to be a school there, a post office there, but there's nothing there anymore other than houses and mountains and a creek. So SouthDown, Kentucky is on the map.
Yeah, paying homage to the old place.
That's right. And actually, I believe SouthDown was named SouthDown, that spot, for a breed of sheep. There's a breed of sheep named SouthDown.
Okay,
so
I did see that.
If you look up Google SouthDown, type of thing, you'll come with a lot of sheep type of things. But apparently somebody raised sheep in there at one time.
Cool. So what all do you produce on the farm?
So what do we do on the farm? I think I break it down like this. I think our niche is maple syrup. It's one of the things that we do that's kind of different than a lot of people do. So we make maple syrup on our property to sell. We raise a market gardening using intensive gardening practices. And all kinds of fresh vegetables that we raise each summer on a very small piece of land. We don't have acres and acres. We have tenths of acres. And then out of that, we also have an on-farm bakery and a licensed commercial kitchen. So we kind of say we bake what we grow. So a lot of the ingredients that we use are things that we've grown and added into the ingredients.
That's awesome. So when you first got the farm, you didn't know that you could farm maple on it, or that wasn't your plan originally?
Oh, I had no idea.
How did you stumble upon
So
it?
Cheryl and I both grew up on and around farms. She grew up on a dairy farm, and my grandfather was a farmer, and we've always been around agriculture our whole lives. And when we bought our 55 acres, we always raised a big garden, for our family and things, and put up a lot of foods and preserved them ourselves. But we wanted to do more. We wanted to be a good steward of the land that God had given us.
Right.
And we were just like, we got 55 acres of very steep hillside property that what do you do with it? And that really led us into thinking about other possibilities.
Yeah. So how long have you been harvesting the maple?
Oh, I would say we've been making maple syrup probably for the last 8 years. Now, it's only been the last 4 years that we've been making it at the level to be able to sell to other people. But for a while, it started really, we homeschooled our children, and we have these maple trees, and we got to thinking, maple trees equals maple syrup. A friend of ours, walked around the property and taught us how to identify a maple tree in the middle of the winter,
right.
And we did it as a school experiment, just with plastic water jugs, some tubing from the hardware store, and drilling holes in trees and boiling it down. And that's how we started out on the front porch over an open flame, just kind of cooking it down.
Not a ton of people do this in Appalachia, but from what I saw you say, it's actually like a pretty old practice here.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. You know what I was reading last night? In 1860, there was some agricultural censuses done, and in the United States and throughout Appalachia, we made over 6 million gallons of maple syrup.
There's a lot of syrup.
6 million gallons. This in 2010, I think the census said we made 2.5 million gallons. They were making 3 times more in 1860 with really rudimentary, elementary methods.
Science project.
Yeah,
technology.
old school, right? And open cast iron, pots in the front yard and boiling it. Can't imagine the work. Imagine what we could do today if as many people were dependent on sugar in that way as they were then. Because back in the 1800s, there was somewhat of an aversion to cane sugar. It really kind of didn't hit, and a lot of that cane sugar was made with slave labor, and there was a lot of people were dependent on other sugar sources.
Yeah.
And they made their own from what they had.
Yeah.
And they had maple, and it produces a good sugar. They didn't make maple syrup for pancakes and waffles.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I wanted to ask you this while we're here at Pancakes and Waffles. Pancakes or waffles? What do you prefer?
Oh man, pancakes.
Okay, me too.
Yeah.
I'd love to hear that.
Yeah. Kindred spirits.
Yeah. How has the process of farming the maple syrup changed since your homeschool science experiment?
Yeah, so when we were doing it just for ourselves, it started as a homeschool science experiment, and it grew out of, this stuff's pretty good, let's make as much as we can. And we maybe at one time had 32 taps in, but that meant walking up into the mountains, and it's steep. I mean, London is flat compared to where we're at. It's very, very steep terrain. Sure. And we could only pack out of the hills so much sap at a time. 8 pounds per gallon. I could carry about 8 gallons at once, in jugs and stuff, but slipping and sliding. So we were really limited by how much sap we could get down out of the hills. It was back, I think in 2016, we went to the Kentucky-Virginia Maple School, sponsored by the local UK Extension Office. Shat Baker and Jeremy Williams put that on, and it brought people from all over Kentucky, from Virginia, from Ohio. I bet there was 65 people in the room that day to come to learn about maple syrup production.
That's cool.
And what was really cool about it was there was people that showed up in the room that were making maple syrup that thought they were the only ones making maple syrup in Kentucky, right?
It's cool that you have that community.
That connection was made there on that day, and from there it kind of opened up, because at that school we were introduced to Keith Moore of Savage Farms up in Lawrence County. He's what I consider a pioneer of this kind of movement here. He's been doing it for over 20 years. And we were introduced to a tubing collection system that allowed us to, pipe or carry that sap out of the hills,
Right.
and we didn't have to touch it. It'll travel sometimes, over 3,000 feet down out of the mountains and end up down at our evaporator where we do the work. And I don't have to touch it till then.
Yeah.
And that just opened up the doors to the possibilities for us and what we could do.
Yeah, that is so cool. Much better than walking up and down the hill.
So when people say this is really an innovative practice, I think in some ways it is, and it's innovative where we apply technology and things that we know today and how to increase production. But it's not innovative when you think about the Native Americans that were doing it well before the Europeans hit this country.
Yeah.
They made maple sugar. They did it using hollowing out a log, collecting it in birch containers, and letting the cold weather freeze the water. It doesn't freeze the sugar. They take it out and then they put hot stones in it and kind of evaporate the water out of it, and they'd scrape up the sugar off the bottom. But they made sugar that way.
Yeah, that's cool.
So and then when we started selling this product at the farmers market, people that were 80 to 85 years old would come to us and say, "Did you make this maple syrup here in Letcher County?" And we'd be like, "Yeah." And I'd see people transforming right in front of my eyes, going back to their childhood, and say, when I was a boy, way back then, I'd help Mom and Dad.
Yeah.
And she would keep the fire going. Me and Dad would go up in the hills and we'd bring it down. And that was in the 30s during the Depression when it was really hard to get. So I think this whole maple syrup movement really is tapping into a distant memory that's almost forgotten. That knowledge base is almost gone. So I think that's one of the special things that I really enjoy about this story that we tell about maple syrup in eastern Kentucky.
Yeah, it's cool. It's got such a rich history that you're just like pulling to here and now.
Exactly. And what would happen if that just got lost? I mean, we're not far from losing that. And it's really cool to make that connection with people and then look forward to see where we can go with it. Can we use this in another way in the future?
Yeah. Where do you think it is going? Do you have any kind of prediction? Or?
Well, I have hopes.
Yeah.
Right? So if you look at trends in the United States, I think since 2010, the industry has grown by over 200%. The demand for the product is amazing. When you think about people concerned about local foods, they're concerned about healthy sugars. You think about corn syrup. It's a syrup or a sugar or a sweetener that's got a really bad rap. And people are staying away from that. And maple syrup and maple sugar is really a healthy form of sugar. It's one of the most healthiest because it has lots of minerals and antioxidants and things like that in it that really make it a positive sugar.
Yeah, which is good as people become more health conscious. That trend seems like it's been going on.
Yeah, and as long as that trend continues, and I think as people become aware of it, it's amazing when we sell maple syrup at the farmer's market. We have little samplers, just a few milliliters, just something you can squeeze into your mouth. A lot of people have never had real maple syrup. Yeah, it's expensive, right? Yeah. It's hard to come by. A lot of it comes from Quebec. But when people find out we're making it right here in the mountains, they walk by, they want a taste of it. Yeah. And it's almost a guaranteed sale right then because they get it, and it's so good.
It tastes like home.
Yeah, that's right.
That's cool. What role do you think that farming, or maple farming specifically, whichever one, what role do you think that can play in like the whole economy of eastern Kentucky?
Yeah, so that's a great question. It's fun to think about these things.
Yeah.
As we go from coal to fill in the blank, the economy moving forward, what's it going to be? I think we're still trying to learn that, trying to figure that out. Yeah. Most people would agree that coal isn't going to play the role it has in the past. Right. I think about the economy that has been in existence there, has been one that's been an extractive economy. It's taken out. We've never really owned what we've made in the mountains. In other words, the miners got paid to mine, but the mineral is often owned by an outside mineral holder, and they made the money. Yeah. And that wealth left here. Right. So when I think about agriculture or anything we do in eastern Kentucky, I think about looking at it through the lenses of reversing that extractive economy, that we need to own what we make. Yeah. And my goal is not just to sell maple syrup to my neighbors, and I'm happy to do that.
Yeah.
But there's only so much money in the community, right? But in a lot of areas of the country, economically we're doing quite well, and there's a boom, and there's disposable income there. So what would it be like in agriculture on small scale farming if we can develop websites and e-markets and things like that where we can own what we make, ship that product out there, get premium prices for it, and bring that money home and put it to work in our own communities. So that's why I say, we don't need another single solution savior coming into Appalachia.
Yeah.
That one thing that's going to save everybody, because that's what coal was. It was a single source solution, and it served its purpose for many, many years. I'm not anti-coal or anything like that, but I think about the replacement of coal, whatever it needs to be. We don't need the silver bullet. We need the silver BB. So you have an economy that's made up of a lot of different pieces, scattering that shot. So if one of them fails or goes out, the whole thing doesn't collapse with it. So that's really the lens that I look at probably anything that I put my hands to through those lenses.
Yeah, it's diversified, so it's
exactly
safer.
Yes.
That's cool. Do you have people visit your farm to see your process and stuff?
So one of the goals of the Kentucky Maple Syrup Association is to put maple syrup on the map in the state of Kentucky, right? And we're able to do that in different ways. And we're only 2 years old, and we're getting off the ground. We got maple syrup at the Kentucky State Fair this year as a recognized commodity product to be judged. Cool. That was really cool. That was like a small win, but it was a win for us. This year, what we were able to do is have our first Kentucky Maple Syrup Day, and 20 producers across the state participated, and people came out to our farms to see us make maple syrup, to buy product.
That's awesome.
And it was really cool. We had 100 plus folks visit our farm on a rainy, damp, cold Saturday afternoon. The first day of February. We didn't know what to expect. Would people come out? Or are they going to show interest? And I spent all day long on an ATV taking folks up the mountain, showing them the tubing system and how we make maple syrup in Kentucky. A lot of people are blown away to think that we could even do that here. So I think tourism, that whole agritourism thing, I think we can play a part in that.
100 people on the very first day.
Yeah.
And a bad day, too.
Yeah,
awesome.
it was a cold, damp day. And we had product. So our bakery, we had a lot of product sold out
That's cool.
within a couple hours. And people waited around for my girls to bake and fill orders that they place and come. They waited for this stuff to come out of the ovens. That was really cool.
That's really cool to see.
Yeah.
How has the immediate community around you responded to maple syrup in your business?
Yeah, I think there's some, initially some skepticism. He's crazy anyway, and I am. But I think it's the kind of thing you got to do it, and you got to show people that it's working. And what we want our farm to be is a demonstration, so that other people can learn off of us. This is something that we like to share about, and we would encourage other people to get into. It's not for everyone. It's a lifestyle. It's kind of like, any kind of farming activity is typically a lifestyle type of thing. When the hay's ready to be made, you don't go to the beach. You got to make the hay. When the sap's flown, you got to be there to deal with that sap. It has a very short shelf life. So it's a lifestyle thing. So we really want other people involved with it.
Aside from just farming, you said that HOMES is what originally, you were a volunteer at HOMES, HOMES.
Yes.
And I don't have the acronym written down. What does that stand for?
It's Housing Oriented Ministries Established for Service, Inc.
Okay.
But it's a whole lot easier to write HOMES.
Yeah, for sure. So you were a volunteer with HOMES when you first moved here, and now you're the executive director?
That's correct.
So what does HOMES do, and what's your role in what they do?
So our mission is to provide affordable housing to people in Letcher and surrounding counties. And when we think about Letcher and surrounding counties, there's a broken housing market. There's no developers there that'll buy a piece of property, build a house, put a for sale sign up, and wait for it to sell. The market's broken. That does not happen. There's a lot of issues with it. So we have been able over the years to develop as of now, 245 houses in the community. Each year we do about 50 to 60 major home repairs for people who own their own homes, but they need a new roof, they need windows, they need floors, heat pump or a source of heat or something like that. And then we've developed 50 rental houses that that are energy efficient, and they're kept up and they're affordable. So we do that with a staff of about 14 people. Most of those people work out in the fields as my construction staff. And they're very talented, hardworking, and some of them have been there almost as long as I have.
245 homes, plus all the small repairs. That's crazy to think about how many lives.
It's amazing, and when you put those figures in the terms of dollars and the subcontractors and the materials that were bought locally, there is real economic impact.
For sure.
And housing is a real important part of a healthy community. So I said our mission was about affordable housing, but our mission is also about a healthy community, right? So if I could just describe to you a little bit about the way that has changed over the years. When I got there in 1991, it was all about warmer, safer, drier, like a Habitat for Humanity silo that we worked in. We didn't collaborate with many other folks. We did our bit. There was a lot of work to do, and we just built those houses. And then over the years, what we saw is a change to wealth building. So the people funding these projects wanted us to build bigger houses, add another bathroom. They wanted folks coming, low-income folks, to be able to gain wealth through their properties. And then we had this thing in 2008 called the housing crisis, right? I don't know, maybe you're too young to remember it.
I recall.
Okay. But it was a real deal. But you know what? In the mountains where we're at, it almost blew over us, because when you don't have a boom, you don't have a bust cycle.
Right.
But it changed the way this nation thinks about housing, right? And now the emphasis is on a healthy community. So what as housing is an important part of a healthy community, so is the economy. So is the addiction issues that we face. So is education. So is local food. So is, name these things, tourism, go down the list. So all of a sudden we're collaborating with a lot of different groups, working on a lot of different types of projects. And it's pretty exciting times to be in that.
That's so cool how all-encompassing it has become. When it started as just housing.
It's really cool. It's really exciting.
Another cool, innovative thing that you helped start, I saw, was the Appalachia Heat Squad. Or Appalachian Heat Squad.
The Appalachia Heat Squad.
What is that? What do you guys do?
So Appalachian Heat Squad was really started or led. The effort was led by FAHI, based in Berea, and we're a member group of FAHI. It was a pilot program with 3 nonprofits in the region to help people and their homes become more energy efficient, to save dollars, applying technology and building science to their homes regardless of their income. So it was a project that allowed us to reach into our community, into another sector, and get into houses that we typically didn't. But over the years we have guys have received training that are BPI certified and have all this knowledge of building science, and they could apply this to a community that really has a very high energy costs, or very inefficient, energy efficient homes. Inefficient.
So what's something new you've tried recently, and how is it going?
Can it be related to maple syrup?
Absolutely.
Okay. Something new that we've tried lately, and how is it going? Well, I'll talk a little bit about our reverse osmosis unit that we purchased this year for the maple syrup production. So reverse osmosis technology is applied to filtering water. It typically takes a particulate, or the junk you don't want in your water, out of your water. And when maple syrup producers run sap through it, we keep the junk. Because that particulate sugar and minerals, and about 20% of the water. So all of a sudden, I'm getting this concentrated sugar sap, and getting pure water that I put in tanks for storage. And I've decreased my boiling time, my energy time that we use to heat the evaporator, by about 80%.
Yeah.
It's been amazing. We used to have all night boils. We didn't hit the bed all night long.
Yeah, wow.
Going all night. Now we're done by 10 or 11 o'clock every night.
Yeah.
That's been amazing. That's a new thing that we've tried, and we're loving it.
It's cool how fast it works and how many different purposes it serves.
Oh, yeah. It is really cool.
So do you have any final thoughts before we wrap up?
Yeah, so I'd like to just talk a little bit about the macro possibilities of maple syrup in Kentucky, and especially in eastern Kentucky, where our heart is.
Yeah.
So in the state of Kentucky, how many maple trees are that you could tap today? Do you have any idea how many maple trees?
I know you have 220, and a lot more than that. Okay. Maybe, I don't know, 2 million. 52 million maple trees in the state of Kentucky that could be tapped today. If you take Floyd County, not far from Letcher, Letcher is one of the bordering counties. If you take Floyd and the surrounding counties, there's 6 counties there in that little cluster. There are 6.9 million maple trees ready to tap today. They're ready. It's a latent asset. It's sitting there. It's an untapped resource. It's going with the puns. I mean, it is ready. All we're doing with those trees is paying taxes on them. And my dream is to see other people tap into that resource, and perhaps some people put together some investments and do something even bigger, a 3,000 or 5,000 tree operation that would throw off hundreds of $1,000s of every year of maple syrup production. We could do that right here in eastern Kentucky, and that's in an area of persistent poverty. You know, some of the lowest income counties in this country are located right there, and we have this resource, and I'm just dying to tap into it. We tapped 296 trees this year. My goal is to go to 800 trees in the next 5 years. If I think about that and the way the resources or the dollars that'll generate for my farm, and extrapolate that up to 6.9 million trees, it's millions of dollars of wealth that's there that we could tap into. So that's I love thinking about that. That's crazy to think about. I'm fired up. I kind of want to go just tap a tree outside.
Let's go. Come on down. We'll let you tap a tree.
Yeah. That would be so fun.
Yeah, I'll do it.
We could get all of us to go on a field trip.
Oh, that'd be great.
Yeah.
Love it.
But if there's anything else you want to shout out or plug or call attention to?
The Kentucky Maple Syrup Association is an effort that I'm involved with, and it's an effort that we're looking forward to working with in the years to come. So you can check out Kentucky Maple Syrup Association. We're working on a website, and hopefully by late December or fall we'll have one up and running. But we have an active Facebook page that we're kind of getting the word out with.
Awesome. Cool. Well, Seth, thank you so much for being here. It's been great to have you. I'm fired up. I'm ready to go. I want to go eat some maple syrup.
There you go. Pancakes.
Yes. No waffles. So thank you so much for being here, and thank you guys for listening, and we'll catch you guys next time on the Hollercast.